All right, we're going to move on to R7. All right, so Mr. Toller, if you'd like to come up, this is R7, declare nominations, measures, and persons elected based on the certified results of the November 5th, 2024 presidential general election. Go ahead.
Once again, good morning, or maybe it's afternoon already. I'm here and pleased to tell you that the presidential general election for 2024, which was held on November 5th, has been certified. I certified it and submitted the results, the official results, to the Secretary of State of California by the deadline on December 3rd, 2024, literally moments before the stroke of midnight. It disappointed me that it took quite that long to do it. Recent legal changes had meant that I couldn't certify earlier, but even if I had wanted to, and in fact it had been the practice of my office to do that under my predecessor, we couldn't have done that this year. This was an extraordinary election. It was extraordinary long before planning started soon after the March primary. It became clear that we would have many, many races and many, many measures on our ballot, and that proved to be the case. There were 54 races, 13 local measures, all the state propositions, all the federal, state, and local races. We had a huge, just organizationally speaking, complex election to conduct. And of course, it was my first election as the new RV, and the first election I'd ever really participated in as anything other than a voter. Then, of course, as matters unfolded, we learned almost serendipitously, unfortunately through Nevada County's folly, that we had a major problem with the ballots that had been printed for us by Runbeck. And we won't hash that out. Obviously, it's going to continue to be a matter for discussion and investigation. But all I can tell you is that it introduced critical complications to our processes in the elections department. And my staff rapidly developed a solution with the assistance primarily of Runbeck and began implementing that solution. And as we were carrying out those operations, we discovered that it was going to take time, a lot of time. It was going to take more people. Unfortunately, the county came through, and we had many high-level county employees who volunteered their time, and we paid their overtime to have them working. Many times we had staff working 12-hour days at the elections department. And even with all of that effort, unceasing, we were not able to finish counting ballots until December 2nd, the day before the certification. But I think it's important, and this is as much for the public, for the citizens and voters of Shasta County, as it is for you all to understand exactly what we're dealing with today. Certification is one thing. It's what I do in my role as the election official for Shasta County. And it's governed by the election code. And it involves my signature under oath, under penalty of perjury, certifying the official results and sending them to the Secretary of State. And once the Secretary of State receives those, it is a done deal. That ship has sailed. The election is certified. So what are you all being asked to do today by my department and by the election code? Well, it's set out in election code 15400, and it is to declare.
Mr. Toller, if we can just stay away from the law and just ask the board to essentially follow the law.
Absolutely, sure.
Let's not instruct them.
Okay. I'll ask you to follow the law. And the law is to declare nominations, measures, and persons elected based on my certification, based on the certified results that were sent to the Secretary of State. You've been provided with a declaration that has that information. You've been provided with the record of the vote, which provides the numerical results and the percentage results. So I believe you have all the tools necessary to accomplish that task. And my hope is that you will do it. I know you've been asked not to by many people. And it's been suggested that you ought not to because this particular election was so problematic, or that somehow I failed to conduct it properly. I find that, frankly, unworthy of my comment, and so I won't. What I will ask you to do is to follow the recommendation that you've been given in R7, because this is the time to move forward. This is the time to show leadership and welcome all those who were successful in this election, who have also expressed desire to be leaders in our community and who want to try to work for the security, the health, the prosperity, and well-being of Shasta County. Moreover, I think you have a role as leaders to encourage those who were not successful to continue to keep their eye on the prize, to continue to want to serve us in Shasta County. They also want our security, our happiness, our prosperity. And we need to move forward and start working together in that respect. So I ask you to follow the recommendation. Thank you.
Supervisor Kelstrom.
Yeah, you were starting to go down the path that I was interested in. So let me ask you this. It's already been certified. It's already at the Secretary of State's office. Anything this board does here is not going to change any of that. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if we vote not to certify it, it's still going to be certified and down at the Secretary of State?
That's not what we're voting.
Okay.
We're voting on the declaration. If Toller comes up and says, I'm a 40-year-old Giants fan who lives with his mother, all we're saying is Toller says he's a 40-year-old, whatever, Giants fan living with his mother. I mean, that's all we're doing.
But this is basically just a formality.
It's a ministerial obligation, which is, yes, it's a recognition of the results of the election.
Okay.
It's a recognition of what you've stated. That's the, and I'm sorry, anybody else in queue? I don't want to. Supervisor Jones.
Honorably Toller, with regards to the Help of America Vote Act, you've signed that under penalty of perjury, and it's here with your seal. Even though our ballots had a 50% error ratio from being electronically scanned, how do you feel that you're comfortable of signing this when that does not satisfy Help America Vote Act of 2002, specifically Section 52, and then subsection 21083.
Well, first of all, I dispute that characterization. We don't have a definitive answer that it was the scanning that caused any problem. All I can say is that there was some interplay between the tabulators and the printing that caused the problem that manifested itself. But the duplication process produced completely scannable ballots. It's the duplicated ballots that were processed, counted, and resulted in the official results in this election.
What was the error ratio of the duplicated ballots that certain marks were not being picked up? What was that percentage?
I don't have that figure.
You do recognize that was an issue?
I do.
All right, and we had to probably look over maybe 150,000 images, is that roughly correct?
Well, I don't speak about images. We talk about cards. So there's the A card and the B card. Both those cards together make up the entire ballot.
Yeah, but when you didn't duplicate the ballot. You had a different image. It wasn't the ballot. You created something that looked like an official ballot, but it was not.
That's right.
Again, I'm not comfortable with that characterization. What we had was the original ballots produced by Runbeck and shipped or mailed to voters, and then we had blank ballot stock, which was the same stock that was used for those original ballots, and the duplication process used scanners and printers that created a ballot which was the equivalent of the voted ballot.
But it wasn't quite the equivalent, correct? I mean, it got it right sometimes, but it did not get it right other times.
That's correct. We had this conversation. In some cases, the way the ballot is marked means the ballot is not recognized by the scanner, and that is when an adjudicator, a human intervening official, has to substitute for the machine. And in that instance, they look at the voted ballot, which would not scan, they determine the voter's intent, and they replicate it with 100% accuracy.
So you had one person looking over the original ballot, and you had another person looking at the duplicated ballot. You didn't have two sets of eyes on either.
There were several stages in the duplication process. I can walk you through each of those, but again, that's not the purpose where we're gathered. That's not R7. I'm confident that the process we employed was a fair and correct process. You may have witnessed some instances in which ballots were not marked.
Every day. Every day.
Fine, it happened. But that doesn't mean that what came out on the other end wasn't a ballot fully filled out, completely as the voter intended it. And we have sequential numbers on each. And as I pointed out previously, the duplicated ballot will have a perfect black square. It won't have any ink. So if there were pens in the room, that's a non-issue. And the way to find out is, frankly, either there has to be a court order to unseal those ballots now that they've been sealed, or there has to be a recount. Those are the two ways.
I mean, part of the problem here.
Okay, let's try and keep this. Oops, sorry, let's try and keep this moving. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Part of the problem here, ROV Toller, is that we failed to have meaningful observation almost at every corner. And so I wouldn't have had so much of a concern over the various processes if I could have actually witnessed most of the processes. Right. In the duplicating room, I could look at duplicating station number 4. I could see that mistakes were being made, that marks were not being transferred over. They were correcting them the days that I were there. I still could not see if there was any pattern because I'm too far away. I can barely see duplicator number 3. Only on one day did I have any somewhat of meaningful observation, and duplication 1 and 2, 0 at all. In the electronic scanning room, the one DR2140 scanner, I could see one scanner. I can't see the others. The one thing you promised us on the meetings before we appointed you to the ROV is that this would be the most transparent election ever, and I believe you failed.
Supervisor Garmin.
I just want to make a motion to approve R7 and declare it.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Garmin, seconded by Supervisor Rickert. We're going to take public comment. RB Toller, will you be staying around?
I will be here.
Okay. One thing I will, you can go ahead and take a seat. One thing, he was going into the election code of 15400, and this is something I just want to help the public commenters. And I'm going to have the speakers go 3 minutes. This is an issue, obviously, to many of you, whatever side you're speaking from, is something you give a lot of time to. And I think based on our closed session and how we've moved that schedule, I want to allot you that time. So we've made the adjustments to the rest of our agenda and schedule to give you that extra 3 minutes. I will say that when we voted on this prior in March, my understanding of what we were doing, and again, this is my fault, is much different when we talk about certifying it and it's already been done, it's a formality, so it's okay, that makes sense. So you vote that. Well, this one, I've really, really struggled on a lot of levels, not because I believe the ROV's office is nefarious, or I don't believe Tom Toller isn't of high character, or Miss Francisca and maybe some of the others. I don't know everybody that works there, but I do know I can attest to Tom Toller for sure in the time I've spent, and I've had positive interactions with Joanna. With that said, one of the things, and I will not fully agree with Supervisor Jones, but I will say, Mr. Toller, you had said you wanted to understand how the sausage is made. Well, that's great that you understand that, but now we have a lot more people in the community, and they don't have the opportunity to sit down with you like maybe I or some of the others have. And this issue is exactly why at the beginning of 23, I really wanted to move away from machines, because I don't think we're such a big county that we can't handle this in a much, much better way. Now, where does that bring us to today? That brings us today to what we actually are voting on. What we are voting on simply by the law is just saying that you've declared these results. So if I was to vote no, it's like I'm sitting here, I'm listening to you, I'm looking at you. Do I agree with it? Do I agree with the process? Do I agree with a whole bunch of it? Absolutely not. But I just want the public to understand, read it while you're sitting in there and you're listening for other people, what our jurisdiction is and what we're able to do as a board in this item. The integrity of that vote matters to me. That's why I spent so much time on it. So by me supporting what this declaration is that is simply not me agreeing with it, not me agreeing with the process, but Tom Toller nonetheless is saying this is what he sent, and that's what I'm tasked by the voters to vote on. Not that I agree with it, because I think this is just beginning in a lot of ways, because this process is all the more reason why there needs to be massive reform, and I believe the Trump administration could possibly bring that, because our federal elections and our state and federal are very different. So how those elections are going to be handled in states such as California, I believe will change. With that, first speaker, Laura Hobbs, Carol Johnson, Thomas H.
Okay, good afternoon. These are the affidavits signed under penalty of perjury by the citizens who witnessed as election observers this election. I want them in the agenda packet, please. So there's a number of issues here. First of all, the certificate that I read, which is in the agenda packet, it says that you are voting on something basically that the public has not seen. What Thomas Toller said in that certificate was that the statement of votes was attached. It was not anywhere in that packet. I still have not seen the statement of votes. So these results are not full, they are not true, and they are not correct as stated in the certificate. So if the declarations by you guys, the declaration is not important, then why even declare it? If it doesn't matter, the certification is done, then why even declare it? Why would you declare false information that's not true, full, or correct? These results are not certifiable and not accurate, and we don't have the statement of votes to actually look through and see if they're correct. We don't have the audit logs to actually verify that they are correct. We don't even have the logic and accuracy testing that was supposed to have been done and released to the public. How by any rationale could you say that these are fair, true, full, and correct? We have no means to say that. So these results are not certifiable. They're not certifiable according to the HAVA requirement. They're not certifiable according to the Secretary of State's voting system standards in California Election Code 19101. They're not certifiable by the public. The public does not trust them. They don't believe them. They don't have faith in them. And some of you might not understand why we're fighting this because Trump won. But it's not just about win or lose. It's about what's fair, true, accurate, and correct. And something has to change. It has to change now. It's been far, far too long. I propose you make some charter amendments right now. Measure E, add an amendment to the charter that specifies elections shall be held in one day with limited absentee ballots. Measure B, clean up those voter rolls, disconnect them from the state of California, disconnect them from the computer. Measure C, add an amendment that the Shasta County shall follow the U.S. Constitution as the supreme law of the land. These are things you can do right now, here, locally. It's here in Shasta County that we can make the effect. This is where the power is. This is where your authority is. Please, I'm begging you, do something and do not declare these results. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning. My name's Carol, and I happen to agree with everything that Laura just said, but I am going to read the statement that I wrote yesterday. Hold the mic down. Ta-da! Is that better? Okay. What I want to say right now is that the end result of what each of you do today with this declaration will become the official stance of Shasta County. And I don't care whether it's what all that rest of that stuff is. And it will reflect on all of the residents of Shasta County. The fact is that this election has now been officially certified by our current registrar of voters. However, this election has had so many problems, many of which you have and will have heard attested to both this morning and otherwise, including the fact that some of you have even been to the ROE office and personally observed the irregularities. In my opinion, this was a certified election that was clearly uncertifiable. I know that each one of you took an oath of office when you were elected, and each one of you are well aware of what that office stated, and that you are morally and ethically charged to uphold that oath of office. In my opinion, if you declare this election under the current conditions that it has been certified, you will be putting a stamp of approval on pure corruption. I have heard, I can't imagine that you are obligated to essentially rubber stamp what has happened here in Shasta County. As far as I know, only one of you has ever stood up against declaring an election, and that is Patrick. And Patrick, I'm going to take this time to thank you for that. And I would ask the rest of you to consider doing exactly the same thing, please. I'm asking you today to rise above the insanity and take a stand against what has been done to we the people, all of us on both sides of this room, by not declaring this election. I believe what has happened in this election is a crime against us, we the people, and I truly believe that continuing to support what has gone on is insane. I would ask that you consider doing something to acknowledge and do hand counting. because that's what we need. That's something that we can trust, that's done by we the people. Every one of us should feel confident at the end result of any election is the true reflection of how we the people have voted. Please prayerfully consider what you vote today, what you say today, and realize that it represents and what it represents, and that you choose to stand against the corruption and for the good of all of we the people of this county.
Hey, Thomas, hold up one second before you come out. I just want to, because we have a stack of 30-some cards, I just want to be really clear again. This may help some of the speakers. This board, and again, I'm one vote, but if we were voting, do we support the results, right? I would vote no. Do we support the process? I would vote no. What we are tasked with up here is saying, does our ROV, did he come and publicly state the results? That's what this board votes on. Is did we receive the report from Thomas Toller? It has nothing to do with do we agree with it. I'm trying to help you because many of you are people that I would call friends and I support, but I know when Mr. Raposa comes up, he'll talk about probably jurisdiction and what we actually can do. Understand what we're voting on, because it doesn't matter if 20 or 30 people come up and say you can't do this, perfectly consider that. I agree with you. I just want you to know that as you come up and speak, because I don't want you to feel it falls on deaf ears. If you look at what we're actually voting on, we can't refute the fact that our ROV came up and gave these results. That's what I vote on. I just want you to understand that when you come up. Next speaker, Thomas Hildebrand. Casey.
Lots of ways to make your conscience feel different, I guess. But got to be a starting point sometimes when enough's enough. Yes. And I would say today would be a good starting time for saying I don't agree, or never mind the process, or until they write it so you can correct it. Say wrong is right, and wrong to me is not right. And I call it as I see it, and it's a farce what's going on. And if you sign in for it, you got some kids coming up, and what's going to happen to them? And it's a day to step up. Or some guy go, give me liberty or give me death. It's down to that point. And I would, everybody talks about God and their religion, but this is the time for the human being to step up and say, I don't think this is right. And in order to, I don't think I'd sign it. I'd put an X maybe down, but I would not put my name to something that's faulty. And I spent a couple hours down there, and just no. But if you're going to sign that, that's your character, bud. That's your character, who you are.
Character is if we can read. That's what it is. I'm so frustrated. Casey, come on up. AR's next. Nicole O, are you here? Because I've called you a few times. I don't see Nicole. And I appreciate your comments, Mr. Hildebrand. I do. And thank you for your service to the country.
If you need to certify under duress, then please do. Because this is corruption and it is a crime scene. Tom just stated that ballots were finished being counted on December 2nd. Then I don't know what I was doing on December 3rd at the ROV's office watching ballots being tabulated through the machines. In fact, we were not even allowed in until after the ballot process had already started. And then they looked like they were done at 3:10 p.m. on Tuesday, December 3rd. This is also the day I witnessed a falsification of ballot logs right in front of my eyes. Another observer and I left at 5:10, 2 hours after the ballots all had been counted. To our dismay, we found out the supervisors without staff came back and started recounting more ballots without observation, without notification to the public. And they weren't done with the results until about 9:30 that night on December 3rd. What the heck? This is an outrage. This whole thing is an outrage, and they know it. They were purposefully turning around the ballot logs so I couldn't see them or copy them. I'm just talking about December 3rd. The ROV has set up their office to make observation extremely difficult. Under such extremes, anything that was observed that's suspicious is very significant. I told Tom several times about suspicious behavior, and he had no clue how the process worked. He provided no reasonable explanations. On December 3rd, the ballot count log, like I said, was falsified right in front of me. Other suspicious behavior was, like I said before, ballot was being written on with a black pen behind, obstructed from the public. I had to jump and move around to actually see that. But I had been there hours and hours watching obstruction with the thousands of ballots in a room in the corner, obstructed by 2 big printers, a fan, shelves, monitors. They did a really good job obstructing what we could see with all those black pens and all of those ballots in the corner. And there was not a chain of custody. There were not 2 people there. They were working independently. And even still, thank you.
They are, followed by Nicole. Are you Nicole? Hey, welcome. Teresa.
There is no law against 100% verifying the audit. We need this to be done. We need rest, knowing that our ballots, our votes have been properly counted, fair and correctly. We have a president now, President Trump, who has been chosen by the people to bring freedom and justice to our country. He has fought very hard because he cares about the people. He didn't allow fear to stop him. He didn't allow lies to overcome him. He is a man of courage, and he has a passion and a desire to clean up all corruption. He is doing the will of the people. Tom Toller should not have certified this election. Too many errors with the ink spray and the machines not working, and because of no transparency whatsoever, we don't know if our ballots here have been counted fair and correctly. The audit log of this election needs to be replaced, needs to be released. This is the will of the people, and this should not be verified by the Board of Supervisors. It should not be acknowledged whatsoever, because there was so much things that have gone wrong, and we the people have seen this. We don't agree with this. We don't agree that this should have been verified, and we ask you to not agree with this, because he needs to turn over the election, the audit log. He needs to release that. So if he's not hiding anything, he'll release it so that we can see. That's what I ask. We, the people, ask for our voices to be heard.
Chair. Supervisor Jones.
Thank you. So with that, I'd like to make a motion that we bring back for the December 19th night meeting the recommendation to release the audit log for the November 2024 election.
For discussion purposes, I would second that. I brought up to Mr. Toller if that was something we could do, but we could. Is that something that council
to bring back for the December 19th agendized?
There's no reason you can't continue the item.
So,
Quick vote.
well, no, he said we can finish this. It's something we can still bring back if we wanted.
Well, we have a motion on the table, and you seconded it.
Yeah. Hey,
So, CEO was saying that that the request was also about the audit log. There is a change in the law, and we would need to do a research and provide a memo to the board.
Could we bring that back so we could have a discussion on the 19th?
You could have a discussion on the 19th. We wouldn't, at that point, have a memo completed to definitively describe what the new law is.
Okay.
what is it? Yeah, I mean, let's take the vote at the end of public comment. Okay. Nicole, thank you for being patient. Teresa, in the,
Is this still R7? Sorry.
R7, yes.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for taking me, and I'm glad God allowed me to make it here today. I've been trying. I'm from Fall River, and I watch it all the time online, and I just want to say that when you're declaring this, you're affirming, and affirming means you're saying everything's true, and this is not true. What's happened is not fair. It's not transparent. It costing extra money, and I just hope that you will not declare, and that we will do a 100% audit hand count for this election. Thank you.
Teresa? Okay. Krista M. David Halligan, if we can get in queue. Bev. Lori Bridgeford.
Me now?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so getting down to what is your task and what is your purpose? You're making a declaration. What is a declaration? This is a new interpretation of an old concept. There have been boards of supervisors that have not declared elections in the past. It's just recently that all of a sudden you have no role. You do have a role. It's your task. It's your purpose. If you declare this, you're saying, as a supervisor, I agree that all these problems still constitute a valid outcome. And we don't know that for sure, and we deserve to know that. Elections have lost the confidence of the people going back before. I mean, people would always say, yeah, vote for it in California. I'm like, no, we don't. They cheat. So it's been like 20 years. And neither side has had the confidence of elections since at least 16. And it keeps getting less and less and less of the public's confidence. You can do something. You can say, let's take a look at it. I'm not saying anybody is a criminal I appreciate what you've tried to do. I don't agree with it. I think hubris is a little bit involved here, that not to accept help from the public that wanted so desperately to help, and to put the public away, and it just created further division. And I'd like to see everybody on the same team, in the same room, in the same building. Like, why didn't we rent out the Civic if there's no room here? You know, why don't we lay the groundwork? Today we're here, we're making a declaration. What is your task? What is your purpose? You do have one. You have a purpose. A declaration means something. Thank you.
David Halligan, come on up. Bev, then Lori.
Based on Kevin's earlier comments, this should go 5-0 to certify, but it'd probably go 4-1 with Mr. Jones.
Not
the
to
only no
certify,
vote.
that's not what we're voting on.
Okay. Okay, so this is ceremonial vote, right? It doesn't mean anything, right? No, I believe it means everything. To Mr. Crye and Mr. Kelstrom, it's not about the 20, 25, 30 Patty Plum and her merry people up here today attempting to disrupt the process and asking you not to vote yes. It's about doing the right thing. It's about the 90,000+ of voters that voted in this county. Are you telling the 90,000 voters this election was rigged? It was fraudulent. It was in error. It was incompetent, with a no confidence vote today. To Mr. Jones, you stood behind Patty Plum at the recent protest seen on TV. She talked about the errors and the lack of voting integrity, the crime. Mr. Jones, you're an employee of this county. You're a supervisor in this county, and your job is to protect, defend, and support the employees of this county. To think you're getting paid to support the election disruptors, I just don't understand that. Mr. Crye, you're the one that put Mr. Toller in the ROV position. Mr. Kelstrom, you're the one that stated Ms. Francesca does a great job. It's not the employees that were the issue. It was the building, the layout of the technology for this observers to see or not see. The election is over. Let's look at solutions. Get this fixed before the next election. To Mr. Toller and Ms. Francesca and the Shasta County employee team, thank you. Thank you for the jobs that you did, and you did them well. And finally, Mr. Crye and Mr. Kelstrom, which one or are both of you stepping up to the plate today to do the right thing for the right reason and vote this election for 90,000 voters in this county?
See, and that's the problem of when people write these. You're good, thank you. When people write these things a week before, it's like they're not even. You guys aren't even. It's frustrating. I'll tell you. If I've learned anything in government, is I'm just frustrated. Anyway, Bev, come on up. Oh my gosh, Lori.
Sorry, I'm probably going to frustrate you some more.
Well, and that's okay.
Okay, you cannot declare this election as a valid election. There is not a statement of vote included in the agenda packet, so that the public has not been able to review it. I think we would have had access, we were supposed to have had access to it 72 hours prior to this meeting. I believe it is a violation of the Brown Act. There were so many problems in our, there were so many problems, and our voter rolls are so dirty. When I brought 6 invalid voters to Mr. Toller because they had 0 addresses and have voted in almost every election since 2020, he said he could not remove them until they have not voted in 2 general elections, I believe he said. Excuse me, they're invalid votes. They're never going to stop voting. Okay?
Hey, Beth, can I ask you a question? Because I know you're not going to get upset, because you're one of my favorite people. And you are. You know that. So here's my question. As you're reading this, right, because I know you understand, like, I don't agree with a lot of this, right? I don't agree with a lot of it. And I think the public discourse is important.
Right.
What we're tasked to do is, did Tom Toller come up here and give us the results? That's what Supervisor Kelstrom, Rickert, Garmin, and Jones vote on today. Did Tom do that? Tom did do that.
I understand that.
So help me.
Okay, I understand that, but the public needs to be aware of what is wrong out there.
There's a ton wrong.
And
I agree with
that's why I'm saying it, okay? There are invalid votes out there. It doesn't get more invalid to have an election. If you're saying, hey, I can't take them off, so just let's keep letting them vote every year.
And so here's the thing, Bev, and this is why we're having this publicly and not out in the hallway, is he was here for 3 or 4 months before the election. I don't agree with a lot of the things he did, and he knows that, and I've told him that.
Right.
And we've had that discussion. What he does going forward in the next 30, 60, 90 days, I think will be the true test, because he was thrown into a situation that was made exponentially worse with the ballot overspray, the building itself. And I look at, he's got an hourglass turned over to fix this stuff and start bringing real sustainable change. Not in 6 months, not in a year. I'm talking like 30 days, 60 days. He's elected, so that decision's there.
And I see his problem, okay, and I feel for him, okay? But that doesn't mean that we can still have an invalid election, okay? I mean, it's, you know, what do you get when you mush oranges and apples together? You get mush.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so anyways, I did look at 92 records from the 2020 elections that were invalid because of either addresses, they moved 20 years ago, whatever, okay? So of the 22 invalid votes, then I broke it down for the 2020 November election. There was 82 votes out of that 92. 58 invalid votes in the Newsom recall. Okay, so do you really think that Newsom was not recalled? In the primary of 2022, there was 43. There was 55 in the general election of 2022. In the primary election, there was 50 invalid ballots in the for 2024. Now that's just looking at 92 of these people, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
So I didn't get the...
I appreciate you, Beth. Lori, Steve, Elisa, Timothy, excuse me, Gable, I believe.
All right, good afternoon. R7, thank you for adding 3 minutes. I have a couple copies, and I really appreciate you explaining what your task and duty is. But if I was handed an envelope with some seal on it, and it's really the Sunday comics, why would I validate that? Sorry to put it in that kind of terms, but when are we going to hear from Joanna today? Haven't heard a peep out of her, and she's been primarily leading because she's been there so long, and I do suspect you've probably had long conversations with probably Kathy Allen. So you can skip signing it, or I'm told you can write V like Victor, C like Charlie under duress. I wouldn't even do that because it's just, you're almost dignifying, like I said, you're just doing the Sunday comics in an envelope or whatever you got. Why did we have 4 days off for the Thanksgiving holiday? Didn't need 4 days straight, and then you go right up until the midnight hour? That didn't make sense. And then you're too busy to talk to people. I hope Clint Curtis is getting full contact from a variety of people because he was a close contender. So don't be afraid to just skip it, opt out. No one's got a gun to your head telling you to sign. Here's the pen. You want black or blue. No one's doing that. So you can make a big change in the future. If anybody that ever wants to run for office again, I don't know who would. There's so many violations. He's been warned about the undeliverable issues. Too many ballots were being printed than we had valid voters. Substandard leadership has been the theme of this entire morning on this issue. It's not necessarily all these machine manufacturers, which we know they've got their massive problems, but it's what do you do with it when it's your turn? Do you hide under the desk? Do you take massive lunch breaks? Are you gone most of the day? Several days, there were times that I did not see Mr. Toller. Now, you can work from home, you can be remote, but it just doesn't give a good optic, is my point. And if you're getting paid a fair amount of money, I would make every effort to be there and be extra supportive to us observers. There needs to be a video made of just the stuff we endured. Tries we did to get through it all, but demand a hand count. I don't know how much we can trust what's going on in the office, that they're sealed in a box with tape. Well, I hope we don't have a fire. I hope we don't have water damage. I hope other things don't happen, because that's the last thing we have to try to salvage this unbelievable mess. And I feel really bad for the people that ran for office and they still have to wonder, what did I just do and what did I get into? So there's time to do right, and I would say just don't sign it. Thank you.
Steve Amaral, Elisa, Timothy Goebel.
I get it. You know, they show you a piece of paper, their signatures are on it, it's certified. But I think this is the hill to die on. What if it's not such a big deal? Let's vote no on it. Let's see what happens. It's time to test the water. We've got to fight back against Sacramento. We the people are the ones that are going to do that. We're the only ones that stand in between what's right and wrong in Sacramento. So let's vote no on it. Let's just test the water and see where it goes. To vote yes on it seems contradictory to the last two, 5 and 6. To me, I get it, I know, but most people are looking at this, and the way it's worded, it's like you're agreeing with what was done.
And that's why I've tried to articulate.
I know. So let's vote no on it and see where it goes. Kevin, let's just test the water. This is the hill to die on. Thank you.
Lisa, come on up. Timothy. And Steve, thank you for being quick and to the point. I do appreciate that.
Hi, I'm speaking for Elisa. My name is Carol, though, but she had to leave, so I'm just gonna say basically what she was talking about. She's asking, and so am I, that the vote has been certified. That we can't change. But what we can do is say something, and I agree with those of you who have said that this election, there are problems. I was one of the observers, and I observed many irregularities. And I have zero confidence, I have zero trust in our election systems here in Shasta County and in Reading. And I'm saying that we need to say something, and we need to say it now. Meaning, it's like, I don't know if there's a way that you can, if you have to sign off on this thing saying, well, yes, he said it was certified, and we're saying, yes, he said that. But is there a way that we can either say no, as the last gentleman said, say no, or have an addendum saying we're doing this under duress because we disagree with these results. We disagree with the process and all of the problems that were caused through this, the hardship. And so anyway, that's basically what I'm saying is like, I understand your position, but I'm saying in some way or shape or form, say no, send a message now and not wait.
Tim, followed by Gary, followed by Dan, followed by Dolores.
Good afternoon, beautiful board. My name is Timothy Goebel. And it is not easy for me to stand up here now, for I stand before you now a big loser. I lost big in our last election, but I still ask that you please vote yes on this item and declare the certified election results. Again, I lost big in this election, but I strongly believe it is important to accept the results of the election even when it goes a vastly different way than I had hoped. I do believe that there is room to improve our elections processes. I am not up here pretending that everything went perfectly. We all know it did not. However, while we should study and learn from our past experiences, we can't change the past, but we can use what we learn to shape the future. Instead of getting stuck in the past, I ask that you vote yes to declare the certified election results and turn your attention to the future and how we can improve our election processes going forward. Before I leave, I do want to take this time as a District 3 resident to say thank you, Supervisor Rickert, for your decades of service to our community. It has been a tremendous honor and privilege to have you as my supervisor. Thank you so much, and I wish you the very best going forward.
All right. Gary, then Dan, then Dolores, then Benjamin.
There's a beloved story in Daniel chapter 6 of the Bible, which is Daniel in the lion's den. And I don't know if any of you remember, but King Darius, who's king of the whole nation, was put on notice that one of his people was going to be under some penalty. So he had a case in front of him, and he spent all day looking for an out because it was that important. And I'm declaring that this is that important. So I'm not a legal expert. Mr. Crye, I hear what you're saying. But you know what? There are some good decisions, some bad decisions. Mr. Toller, you were in a tough spot with all the problems with that voting machine. That's a big problem with R6 and R7. We've seen those are problems. I do believe we should go to hand counting and hand validation if we don't get hand counts first. But the thing is, you're going to be putting your name on something. Okay? I mean, what if you look at the Dred Scott decision, which said that, you know, black people aren't really fully human? Okay, would you want your name associated with that? Find out if there's a way for you to not put your name on this decision. Just work it. Whatever you need to do, figure out what the best thing you do. If it means that you're going to declare it under duress, whatever you have to do. But I would not want my name to be on this, and I hope that you will not want your names on it, and do whatever you can to keep it from going forward with a blessing from this group.
So the reason, because you've got a minute left and I see you wrapping up, and the reason why, and county council will affirm this, is because that's what I've been doing the last 6 weeks, is looking for that technical out, because I think it's horrible. I think it's horrible, the process, and that's why I've gone in so deep into 15400. I just want you to understand that. Like I'm there. I've looked for that, but you know, when you bring in scripture like that, right? I get that, and that resonates. But the reality is, it's everything that I stand for. What I say about my convictions is like, there isn't that out, but that doesn't mean the fight is remotely over. Thank you. You have 21 seconds left.
What about signing under duress?
That'll be a question I'll probably ask council when public comments over.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dan. Dolores. And then after Dolores is Benjamin, then Bob Holsinger.
Thank you for hearing me again. I've been coming 3 or 4 months. I've only missed one supervisor meeting. And in every one of those meetings, you have heard evidence and testimonies of people that did not trust the system, that gave you opportunities to see that it wasn't right. You agree that you wouldn't sign this if you were asked all the right questions. You need to change the way that that thing is worded. You need to come up with another. Not all questions can be answered yes or no. And I respect you supervisors and the job you do. So I'll say, counselor, have you stopped beating your wife yet? There's not a very good answer he can give for that, because if he says yes, that means he did. And if he says no, it means he still is. You can't answer all questions yes or no. For you to say that Tom came up and made an announcement, yeah, that's technically what's on that paper, but what you're doing is endorsing what this man has said. He still hasn't given us the logic and accuracy test. If the logic and accuracy test had been done properly, it would have pointed out that there was an overspray issue way before the election. This whole problem happened because they're not doing it right. And you guys are going to declare that it was done right. Now you say you're just declaring that he came up here and spoke, but the rest of the world is going to look at that and say you declared. Duress is got to be the minimum. The right thing to do is to refuse to sign it, because you can't trust this election. You can't trust it. You've heard testimony for months and months, and you know that there are major problems over there. How he's coming up here and saying it's okay is not acceptable. You're finding, you got to find a way out of it, Kevin. You're saying you're being manipulated and used.
I'm not being manipulated.
Yes, you are. You just said. You said you wouldn't agree to any of this, Kevin.
No, but here's the deal, and I appreciate the dialogue, and I appreciate that you're passionate, and this is your time, so you can cut me off anytime. But I'm just telling you, there's no. I think this is stupid. It sucks, to be honest, the way they word this.
Then change it.
I agree. Okay, so how do we change that? We don't change it here. What we do is legislatively. So I've been.
No, see, you're kicking the thing down the road. This man's going to be on the next ballot that we've got. I can't trust him. I can't trust him.
Then
to
run
do
against him.
So.
Run against him. Run against him.
Okay.
Well, here's what I'm frustrated about. Most of you guys are people that I support, and I get it, and I'm trying to explain to you. The more we divide on this issue is.
You're being manipulated. You say you're not being manipulated, but BS. You're being manipulated.
You're supervisor to talk to you.
No, they're not.
I care about the issue.
I agree. I'm passionate about it, because if we don't have fair elections, we don't have a country.
I agree.
And we don't have fair elections in Shasta County because of what's going on.
Thank you, Dolores. Hey, Dan. Thank you. Thank you. Benjamin after Dolores, then Bob.
You know, I'm surprised, I'm not surprised, I should say, that you don't have problems signing contract agreements with the school and take money, but yet you have a problem to to actually say no to this. Is this declaration under penalty of perjury? Because if it is, that's why you should be afraid. But you don't have the stop talking over there, Kevin. Stop. You also need to understand that you don't have the backbone to do what's right to represent the people. You don't have the backbone. If you do the same thing, if you follow him, people are going to look at you. You don't have the backbone. They're not going to, you're going to have so many problems. You don't deserve the money that you're getting now. And for you to say, oh, I could go ahead and say under duress. What duress? Have the backbone. Or should I say have the balls to do what's right for the people. Because you don't have what it takes. It's only when it benefits you. How about calling, an emergency, declare an emergency for election, false claim act? Because this is false claim. If people are claiming that there's something wrong, and for you to go ahead and approve it and engage in that, that means you're saying it's okay. Everything was fine. You want to put your name? You better put under penalty of perjury, because that's going to bite you. And it is. Because you are a public official who holds the highest position. It doesn't matter if you say that, well, you're just making sure that we do our part, and it doesn't matter. It does matter. You're supposed to protect the citizens. People are coming here complaining and telling you to do your damn job to protect them. You're not doing that. You're not listening. Because the only thing you're worried about is that you don't want. Because what happens if you don't declare this and you don't sign this, what happens is that Mary and Tim still stays on the board, and that's what you don't want. You want them out because your position, you want them out, and you're looking forward to your position to hold that crown again for the next another year, because you already tried to brownie up to Mr. Plummer. So that's your goal. You're not for the people. You've never been for the people. That's why you're struggling. Because you know why you struggle? Because you don't have it in you to do the right thing. People have to pull damn teeth just to get you to do that damn right thing. How dare you betray the people? You're a traitor. You laugh. You think it's funny to betray the people? They have a damn right reason now. And I agree, because I have a stake in this thing. Because you guys had a complaint in front of you to do the right thing, and yet you didn't.
Benjamin Owain, followed by Bob Holsinger, followed by Jeff Lowe, followed by Lori Heston.
So let's talk about a minute ago with what Patrick said to Tom Toller. So the ballot overspray issue, the HART intercivic systems, the 50% ballot failure rate, well, that was managed through the standard duplication process. Now, while this is more frequently used during this election, despite Patrick Jones' allegations, the process is fully compliant with the Help America Vote Act and preserves voter intent. Our elections office handled the issue effectively and professionally, ensuring that that every ballot was accurately counted. Despite this, misinformation continues to fuel distrust, largely perpetuated by people like Patrick Jones and the majority of our elections commission. But what stands out to me more is Supervisor Kevin Crye's position, or rather lack of one. If Crye truly believed in sending a message about the election, he would take the plunge and vote against this. But let's be honest, Kevin doesn't want to deal with the legal and political consequences of such an action, because voting against these results violate California Elections Code 15400. That's right, it's illegal to vote no. This would invite lawsuits, state intervention, and a loss of authority of the board. It would also expose the board and its members to widespread scrutiny, reputational damage, and unsurprisingly, Kevin doesn't seem to be willing to take that risk. True commitment takes sacrifice, and I don't think he knows what that is. Sure, he mirrors the rhetoric of election denial groups and secessionist movements like New California State, but stops short of backing words with action. Instead, he plays to his base, appeasing those who demand sweeping, unfounded changes to our electoral system while quietly avoiding the fallout of actually following through. That's what you guys are saying. This isn't leadership, it's opportunism. That's the Kevin I know. Declaring election results is not just a procedural necessity, it's a responsibility that reflects the integrity of the democratic process. Refusing to declare the election results would, refusing to vote to declare the election results would create legal chaos, undermine public trust, and embolden those who seek to destabilize our election. Kevin knows this, which is why he won't take the plunge. Instead, he remains content to stoke the flames of doubt without taking responsibility for any consequences. Now, that being said, I still believe in the integrity of the elections office and that they've done their job. The board's duty is now clear. Declare the results, move forward.
Bob Holsinger, Jeff Lowe, Lori Heston.
Hey, Bob left. Can I take his place?
Did he give you something to? I don't know. Actually, is he? I mean, did he give you something to say you could read what he had? Yeah. No. Okay. Then we can't let you. That's correct. Is that correct, counsel?
You would have to allow anybody else to put in a card at this point if you started to.
Yeah. I mean, if Bob wants to email me really quick and say he sends it over to you, probably. So all right. So. Go ahead and take a seat then, Jeff, Lori, Jim, Ron. Hopefully we get some theatrical voice inflections. That would be great. I don't think Ben heard that.
Good afternoon. I could actually talk for days about things that went wrong and cross those off and get right to the point. And the point of this is whether we're going to declare, whether these five fine folks are going to declare this election, just declare it as official, or whatever official term we're going to use for it. We're calling it a ministerial obligation, or I think it's a ministerial duty. So I got to change your mind, Kevin, on what that duty means. It's not something that you just do because it's written somewhere. You've studied the 15400 pretty thoroughly, I'm sure. But there's two big misconceptions about what a ministerial act is. One is that a ministerial act is less important or significant than a discretionary act. Well, ministerial acts are crucial for the functioning of government and the legal system, ensuring that procedural and administrative duties are carried out efficiently and correctly. Another misconception of a ministerial act is it cannot be challenged or reviewed. While the discretion involved in these acts is minimal, they can still be subject to judicial review to ensure compliance with the law. We've heard all the things that have gone wrong, and it's massive. We don't trust this election. It went off the tracks. It's a train wreck. And if we just go ahead and go through the procedure and bless it like 15400 is telling you that you should, then we're saying everything's fine. The next election, it might happen again. Rubber stamp it too. We got to stop that in its tracks and do not certify this. Okay.
Lori Heston, Jim Burnett, Ron Pember, Jeff Carr, Carol, and Terry.
It seems that we're caught up in semantics. When I read the item on the agenda, it says declare nominations, measures, and persons elected based on the certified results. So it reads as if it means more than we are recognizing that the ROV certified it. It's declaring that the nominations, the measures, and the people were elected based upon the certified results, which the assumption would be that those are all fair, accurate, and true. So if it is simply a rewording, that needs to take place in the motion, that the board acknowledges that ROV Toller certified this election, but that doesn't mean that it is agreed upon or that that's proof of its accuracy. However you would word it, I think is important, because the message that will be sent, this is an example of the message that will be of the message that will be received by your declaration is what you're hearing. Whether or not that's truth, according to Kevin's definition, the mass of this county will believe that you approve of and are confident in the certified results of the election. And I don't think that's the case. So word it in such a way that you can accomplish the letter of the law, but you can also send a message to all your constituents that you're fighting for them and for fair, free, and honest elections. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Jim? Ron? Jeff?
Guess what? I'm going to say vote no. And if you can't find the fortitude to vote no as a symbolic protest, then I don't know when that time will come. There's a time and place for everything, and this is not the time to comply with some, it looks like a real phony type of law. You guys are our representatives, and yet the state of California says whatever you do doesn't matter because the state shall tell you you shall vote. And that's anti-democratic, okay? That is anti-representative government. So, like I say, this is a time to just vote no because it's purely symbolic, but it's a very effective protest. And maybe somebody will take notice that you guys are standing up for something, and they'll ask you about it, and that'll give you an opportunity to explain why you did it, because it's a very important concept that we don't appear like we're going along with everything, because as you've seen this morning, none of us are pleased with the results of this election. Thank you.
Ron? Followed by Jeff Carr, followed by Carol, followed by Terry. And I don't know if Carol was before Terry or after Terry. I dropped him, so I don't know. Anyway, Ron and Jeff.
Okay. When the observers are not allowed to see what is being done, that means there is no transparency. So we, the people, don't trust the election results as certifiable. The new ROV hasn't earned the trust of the people by not allowing observers to observe. He will not allow people to observe. So how can we trust what's being said or what he's certifying to be certifiable? We don't know. We can't see. We're not allowed to go in and see. So this observer, you guys, we didn't elect him. We didn't get a chance to have any input. And so now there's a problem. So now it's up to you guys to solve the problem. Maybe you ought to have him, if he can't or won't do his job, maybe you ought to terminate him. To me, it's like, I don't know, he may be a lawyer, but I don't know if he's qualified. To me, it's like hiring a cabinet maker to build a bridge across the Sacramento River. So anyhow, sorry for being so blunt. Have a good day.
Jeff, Terry, then Carol.
Good afternoon. I'm here to encourage you to vote for the declaration. And with a courtesy, if I may, through the chair, Mr. Toller and staff, thank you very much for all of your efforts and for your stick-to-itiveness here. Supervisors, I'm glad to address you, and I hope that you will declare these folks elected. There's not a single race that the folks in this room contend was decided wrongly because of the tabulated results. No one has expressed that any candidate has been wrongly certified a winner in any race. The sooner you stop catering to this silliness, the sooner you will have time to work on issues that relate to the rest of us, the people in Shasta County. Timestamps, audit logs, and Newsom, oh my. This manufactured drama has endured for more than 4 years, complete with incessant, repetitive complaints and suspiciously selective quotes from statutes and articles as these folks attempt to tutor you and your counsel on the laws. There's a contingent in this room, and I call them the University of Elections, who will never not be happy with whatever you do. They will never thank you. They will never thank the election staff. They will never say there was a fair election. Do yourselves a favor. After you pass this declaration and stop catering to this rabble of folks who mainline YouTube videos and Telegram channels and Truth Social to keep their dopamine fix, they're all chasing a fantasy. This perpetual circus of angry voices is a waste of all of our time. The sooner you stop encouraging nonsense from these people seated directly behind me, the sooner the people who normally sit on the other side of the room, they'll stop coming. And then we can deal with real issues, not imaginary issues in this county that need to be addressed. Stop the silliness. Do the work of the people of this county.
Terry, Carol. Then we'll bring it back for board discussion. These are our last two items.
Okay, so not all law is lawful. And that's why we have a constitution and a state constitution and the United States Code, and we do have the election code. And what Kevin is talking about is election code 15400, which we've known for a long time that you didn't have any teeth in this. Once he did what he was going to do, he did it. So why didn't we do something sooner? Why didn't we just say, okay, we need to declare an emergency meeting? Because I believe we should declare it. And by golly, we're looking at 15400, which says shall declare. However, not all law is good law, and you did take an oath to the Constitution. So your abstinence from this and saying, well, wait a second, we don't agree with the law. Now, here's something else we need to understand, because apparently it's not getting understood here. I had a woman named Marley Hornick. Some of you might know her. She's a very, very good friend of United Sovereign Americans. She's the one who has the case against the United States in talking about how our votes were fraudulent by using our civil rights, which I talked about before the last time I stepped up here. She looked at me because how many of us have said, we will not, we shall not comply, right? Huh? Well, no. She looked at me and she said, Terry, isn't the government supposed to comply with us? Aren't you supposed to comply with us? By not complying with this and telling them, bad law, we don't want to declare. What would happen if you didn't? It's the election code. Do you go to jail? Do they arrest you? There has to be something for bad law to stand against it. You've got to do something to stand against it. The credibility and the job that you need to do here is to make sure, yes, you have jurisdiction. You have jurisdiction to say that because you represent the people and you took an oath to the Constitution. You can interpose, and the way you interpose is by just either no action at all or voting no. Maybe no action at all. See what happens. Because there isn't a time frame in election code 15400 where you as a board of supervisors has to say, we will declare this. There is not a time limit anywhere that I know of or have read. So what we have to start understanding is, are we going to stand up as a people? Or are we just going to roll over again and not poke the bear? If you've had problems with somebody who you appointed, maybe you appointed the wrong person. If you've appointed the wrong person, own up to the mistake, and if you have jurisdiction, find another person. But the point is, you need to stand for the people. That's your job. And that's what we need to have done. Maybe no answer is the right answer.
Carol. Is there a Carol? I'm sure there is a Carol, but that Carol is not here. Yeah, all right. We're going to go ahead and bring this back for board discussion. Supervisor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. So earlier this year, I was pretty excited that, with the appointment of Tom Toller. I really thought this was an opportunity of a lifetime to restore trust, which was what was lacking in the past. Restore trust, have transparency and accountability in the elections department. And so I was really looking forward to this. When the day came that we had the accuracy and logic tests, I went down to observe, and the ropes were put so far away that right off the bat, I could not see marks on the ballots, which was exactly what we had before. No meaningful observation. I called Chair Crye and said, Chair, I'm not sure why Tom's not solving this. It's really obvious when you go up you don't have meaningful observation. This was the thing that we were going to fix without doubt, without question. Chair did come down. They were able to move some things a little closer. But it still felt like an adversarial environment, that you weren't welcome there. And that's the culture that I was hoping that would change. When I went upstairs on election day, trying to take a look at these Canon scanners, you could only see one. It's in an enclosed room. You're not able to see the others. So again, I'm missing a lot of meaningful observation. Over in the duplication room, multiple issues there, only seeing really one duplication, number 4, and not being able to see the others. Not having meaningful observation means you do not have trust. You have to see, and they're putting people at such a distance, and me as a supervisor, the same distance. Now I oversee the elections department. That seems to be missed here. And then I look down into the break room and I see women handling ballots by themselves, and a line put up that you cannot be there within 30 feet. Again, lacking meaningful observation. At no time did I see satisfactory change in what we had before to restore trust with the voters. Now, the board, we normally would declare election results. That is what we're being asked to today. The definition of a result is a satisfactory or favorable outcome of a contest. Is this contest, was it satisfactory? No. Election laws were violated. It was not satisfactory, and we had the opportunity to do so. This was an opportunity for the ROV to show how to restore trust in your elections department, to not put people off at a distance. When I was looking through the observation window for the duplicating room, one of the election workers walked behind me and called me a vulture because I was looking and monitoring, doing my civic job, and yet I was called a name. That is not the environment that we want in the elections department. It needs a culture change. We had an opportunity with the new ROV to do that, to have meaningful observation, to restore trust. And meaningful observation, that's not just an ask. That's the law. We have to follow the law. We're asking you to follow the law and allow the public to have meaningful observation. And these are just ballots. You're supposed to engage the public. These ballots are not secret. They're secretive. There is no names on them. You can't tell who made what mark. And we didn't do that. We had the opportunity to do it. And the building is not a problem. There's more than enough space on the first floor to have meaningful observation on almost all functions that they do there. They have chosen to not do that. They have chosen a pattern here that has existed for a long time that would probably be acceptable with the California Secretary of State. So with that, there is no way that I will, with my name, declare these nominations. So I'm going to make on R7, I'm going to make a motion to not declare the nominations.
Supervisor Gone.
Thank you, Chairman Crye. Mr. Toller, I've got a couple of questions, if you don't mind, real quick. Thank you again. First of all, you mentioned there were some mistakes that had happened. Do you feel confident that your end result is correct and it would stand up if there was a court challenge?
Yes. Unequivocally.
Okay, and I think that's the bottom line. We all want to make sure it's correct. You're an attorney, you've been an attorney for many years. You feel confident it will stand up in court, then I have no issue, I have no issue declaring this. Thank you. I have a question for counsel. Is there any scenario where Supervisor Rickert would stay on this board come January?
There's really no way that's going to happen. Ultimately, 15400 uses mandatory language that the board shall declare. How the state would enforce that or what that would look like, I don't know. But ultimately, the certified election results have determined the top vote getters, which is the section 15452, and that's controlling of who will hold the seat in January.
Okay. So, because I was wondering about that, because somebody mentioned that her and I would stay up here. I would think that Supervisor Jones and myself, there would be no chance of that because our elections were declared in March. So maybe Supervisor Rickert could, but we wouldn't be.
Yes, so the board has declared the results from that race.
Okay, so we're good. All right, that's it.
All right, so I have quite a bit here, but I think I've spoke with some of the people that have come up throughout this process. I will say Laura, the very first speaker, made some good points about charter amendments, and I did start looking at some other counties about some of that. But again, a lot of speakers made a lot of good points. I just want people to understand this. This isn't about. I mean, some of you, where was it? I think Lori, you had talked. Lori Heston, if she's still here, talked a little bit about getting that message out. I mean, that's why I do as many videos as I can. That's why I spend as much time as possible on the radio going through this, unpacking these things. I think it's important for the public to know. But what's frustrating is fewer and fewer people like really pay attention to some of this stuff, and it is frustrating because to me, I mean that's why I do them. I mean, if you look back, I was never on Facebook like 3 years ago, ever. I mean, maybe pictures with my kids, and that was about it. I think the only way that some of this stuff changes is for groups to stay vigilant and keep getting that information out. Again, and what's really tough too is some of the people that come up here who either they're retired or don't have jobs, and they talk about me kowtowing. I mean, the same reason many of you support me is because I hold fast to my convictions, and my convictions right now when it comes to this process is about as defunct and void of positive process than I could have imagined. This is worse than when I first took office in 23. And it's, one speaker said, maybe make the statement that this has fallen far short of what I thought and hoped for. And that is 100% true. Not that I think, Mr. Toller, that you don't have high integrity, but I do. I think this observation and some of these items with these ballots is a perfect example to stand really tall and be very, very loud and make our voice known. But that obviously didn't happen. My last CSAC meeting, Betty Yee came up and spoke. And I spoke out in front of all 58 other counties, and I ripped her for the hypocrisy she was spewing in the afternoon session on Thursday at CSAC. I have no problem standing up, and that's hold on, and that's what's very, very clear to me is in this process. This item of 15,400 has to be addressed, and I don't know if that goes into the semantics of a measure. And I did learn a lot from this past election with those, and but again, it's. I mean, I fully understand what my role is and what I can do and what I need to do going forward. So I appreciate everybody coming and speaking. Supervisor Kelstrom, Rickert, do you have anything before we take a vote? Supervisor Kelstrom.
Well, my vote will be under duress, so.
Council Larmer, can you explain like what that would be? I mean, I'm just curious. And Supervisor Kelstrom, thank you for bringing that up.
There's no provision in law for the supervisors to do that. Ultimately, it could be written on the document so long as the board voted to place it on the document. The chairman couldn't choose to do that on his own.
Oh yeah. So instead of Ms. Blankenship.
I apologize for the interruption, Chair. I just want to clarify that we are currently considering a substitute motion by Supervisor Jones and that we currently don't have a second for it. So I just want to make sure I'm clear as to what motion we're discussing at the moment.
Yes, Supervisor Jones.
Supervisor Kelstrom, did you put that into a form of a motion or did you?
No.
You didn't. Okay, well, I'll put it in a form of, I'll make a substitute motion that we certify, we declare the nominations under duress. Lynn, would you second that?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Supervisor Rickert.
Yeah, so what happened to the motion that
It failed
Supervisor
for lack
Garmin?
of a second.
I seconded it.
So that one we didn't take a formal vote on.
Supervisor Garmin, you seconded it.
Right.
Yes, so there's a substitute motion.
I just wanted to forget about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Ms. Blankenship, you're still in queue. Is there something else?
No.
So I just want to understand this. Well, no, it's important to me for what I sign my name to. So when it comes to direct, the whole thing is I think it's garbage. So where I'm able to put on that signing this, this has nothing to do with the state of California. It has to do with I want it known that I think this process is horrible and needs fixing. So what does that language look like? Because I'm the one signing it as the chair. So what does that language look like? Well, it's not, and people, if you could not yell from, but I will articulate what someone just said. The out is understanding that what we are tasked as supervisors to do. That's what's important, is understanding that, what the vote is. However, if there is a way to send the message that this has been a horrible, horrible process, I would support that.
The current motion, the only thing that could be written is that your signature with under duress below it.
Perfect. Supervisor Garmin.
Yeah, question for council. Obviously, we are not under duress. Nobody's twisting our arm up here and telling us we have to vote yes or no on this. So I think that's craziness. But my question to you is, obviously, I'm not going to say I'm voting under duress, but I'm going to be put in a position if I don't vote yes under duress, this motion is going to fail. Or it could fail. So can I stipulate, at least when I vote, that I am not voting under duress?
So you would have to make a substitute motion ultimately. And as far as whether that passes or fails, and the definition of duress, there's really not a legal question in this arena.
Yeah,
it's laughable. I know. I'm good.
Well, yeah, and Supervisor Garmin, I don't disagree when we say laughable, but at the same time, and you've been down to CSAC, and when you get somebody who's running for governor come in and say the exact opposite of what she just did for 4 years as a state controller, you realize this person could be our governor. Kamala Harris could be our governor. So at what point do counties like ours say, hey, look, the way this is written is, so comical. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and take the vote. Supervisor Garmin, did you make a motion that you wanted something? No? Okay. We'll start with Supervisor Garmin.
Supervisor Garmin?
Yes, not under duress.
That's not the motion on the floor. Yeah, it's either yes or no.
I voted yes, didn't you hear?
Okay, so
just to clarify, the motion Supervisor Jones made that was seconded by Supervisor Kelstrom is what we're taking.
Declare the nominations under duress.
So my vote would be yes, but I am not under duress personally.
So yes, and so
Supervisor Jones?
yes.
Supervisor Crye?
Yes.
Supervisor Kelstrom?
Yes.
And Supervisor Rickert?
I'm also voting yes, but not under duress.
Doesn't look that way.
All right. So the motion, which will have 5 supervisor signatures on it on behalf of myself as the chair, is that we are signing this under duress. So thank you, supervisors, for supporting it 5-0.